It's overflowing. No. Hello, everyone. I'm Michaela Kathleen, and I'm a book addict. I think it's been a little longer between hauls this time. Not a lot longer, though. And my designated space, my designated book cart, and TBR shelf are now overflowing. But I went to a thrift store recently. Bad idea. And so I just had to get 4 books there. And I had a birthday recently. Also a bad idea. But luckily I only got 1 book for my birthday. And starting off with that one, that was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Maxey. I remembered all on my own what order those went in. But yes, as you can see from the bookmark, I actually technically haven't started this book yet. I'm starting it tomorrow, and I'm very excited for it. I got it for my birthday, as I said, from my mom. I had it on my Christmas list, my birthday list, just all my lists, partly because it was Barnes & Noble's Book of the Year. In 2019, it was their first ever Book of the Year, and also just because I've heard a lot about it, and I follow him on Instagram now, and I like his illustrations and everything. So I have a pretty solid bet here that I will like this book. And yeah, it's not really a story per se, it is just a bunch of illustrations of these 4 characters just saying nice, uplifting things to each other. So just a very feel-good book, I think. And I feel like actually the ideal way to read this is to be a parent and to read it to your child, but I'm sure anyone can enjoy it. I'm sure I will enjoy it. But yes, looking forward to this one, starting this one tomorrow. And it's going to be in this month's wrap-up. It's the last book that I'm squeezing in this month. And so I'm not sure, I'm going to try to get this video out before that wrap-up, but that wrap-up might be coming first. I might have already talked about this book in the wrap-up. But yeah, that was the first book. And then the other 4 books, as I said, I got from a thrift store. They were all $1 or less. So I didn't need a whole lot of motivation for any of them to pick them up and get them. Hence why I got 4 of them when I don't need any more books on my shelves at all. But you can't resist when they're less than $1. The first one that I got was Prey by Michael Crichton. And my very thin motivation here was Michael Crichton. I've read Jurassic Park, I enjoyed Jurassic Park, and I'm interested to see if I will like his writing outside of the Jurassic Park world. The second book I picked up was Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides, I think is how it's pronounced, which is a Pulitzer Prize winner, kind of an iconic book. I first heard about it in my women's study class in college. That alone was enough for me to want to pick it up. And I think it is basically like the first fiction book, at least. I would hope it was talked about in nonfiction before this. But I think it was like the first fiction book to address the topic or even the existence of intersex people, people who are born with both male and female reproductive organs. And yeah, it follows a character who is intersex and whose parents chose to have their baby have a surgery to just have their female reproductive parts, and they grew up female, but they find out later that they were born intersex and they've been feeling like they should have been male, and it's a whole thing. So we'll be very interested to read this Pulitzer winner. The third book I picked up was The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I am like 99% sure I haven't read this book, and I'm also 99% sure that I've seen the movie. I'm pretty sure I watched the movie for school, which means I probably didn't pay a ton of attention to it. I think I liked it well enough. Very vague memories. I think my interaction with this has always been through school, which is not always the best way to interact with stories. And yeah, I think now as an older reader, I'm interested to pick it up. As a kid, this would have been pretty outside my wheelhouse. I was pretty much a fantasy kid all the way up through my teen years. But obviously this is just a huge classic, and so now that I'm older, I feel like I might have more appreciation for it. And then the final book I picked up at the thrift shop was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which there is kind of a long story behind this one and me getting this one. I have been wanting to read Patrick Rothfuss for years. I saw him at NerdCon Stories, the NerdCon Stories convention, and he was one of the panelists, and he was just one of my favorite panelists that were there. I didn't know a ton of the panelists, including him, but he just seemed super cool, super chill. I vibed with him. He was one of my favorite panelists there. And so, because of that, I've been wanting to try out one of his books ever since then, and The Name of the Wind is kind of his biggest one. So, been kind of meaning to pick it up for years and never have gotten around to it. And then over Thanksgiving, me and my boyfriend visited his parents, and I saw the gorgeous, breathtaking 10th anniversary edition of The Name of the Wind in a bookstore in the airport. But it's a very big book and also very expensive. So I was like, oh, I don't want to pick this up and have to lug it onto the next flight and blah, 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 and lug it along for the whole trip. But then I kept thinking about it over Thanksgiving. And so I was like, if the bookstore is still open on our layover on the way home, I'll get it. Which I suspected it wouldn't be because we had kind of a somewhat later layover, like 7 p.m. And I was pretty sure stores like that in the airport probably closed by around 5. And I was right, it was closed. So I had left it up to fate, and fate had slammed the door on me. And I was like, okay, that has passed, not getting this book, unfortunately. But then I just kept thinking about it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it because it's such a pretty book. It's got, I'll pop up a picture of the cover, but it's also got sprayed edges, red sprayed edges, and I don't have any books with sprayed edges. I have like metallic edges of a couple of my books, but no sprayed edges. So I kept thinking about it, and I was like, I still want to get this. But then, so I looked at it online, and it was so expensive, and I went back and forth for weeks. I saw it at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's at Barnes & Noble, it's a sign, I have to get it. But then I didn't get it, and then I had gotten to a point where I was like, the next time I go to Barnes & Noble, if it's still there, I'm getting it, it's happening. And then I was like, maybe I should research more about this book, because I knew literally nothing about it other than it is adult fantasy by Patrick Rothfuss, which sometimes I can be a little bit bored by adult fantasy. So it was going to be a risk no matter what, especially with how expensive it is. So I did a little research, and I found out that this book is in a Game of Thrones situation in that it is unfinished, and the previous book came out like 10 years ago, and there's very little sign that the third book is ever going to arrive. So I was like, I don't want to pay that much money for an adult fantasy that I might not even enjoy, I might find it boring, that is also unfinished. So I came to the final conclusion that I would not get this beautiful 10th anniversary edition. Sad. But then I saw this edition at the thrift store for $1, and I was like, you know what? I can pay $1 to find out whether or not I like the book. So yeah, I have it now, and I will see if I like it, and if I really love it, maybe I'll get the pretty edition. Maybe I'll leave that up to the fate of whether or not the final book ever comes out. We'll see. That was a very long story, I apologize. But anyways, these are the 5 books that I have recently hauled. I say it every time, but I truly need to stop. Let me know down below if you have hauled any books recently. Thank you for watching, and on to today's quote for this video. And this is a short and simple one from The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashers. And it goes, wish for what you want, work for what you need. Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.